Let's make the comfiest oversized crew neck jumper. This is the June jumper and the pattern for it is available on my Etsy shop, which is linked in the description below. PS, this is part of a tracksuit set. The bottoms are the June joggers, for which I have a separate video tutorial on my channel, and of course also a designated sewing pattern. These are the materials that you will need for this DIY. 1 to 2 meters of fleece lined jersey or any other stretchy fabric of your choice, matching thread, and of course your sewing machine and optionally your overlocker. Step 1, as per usual, is printing and assembling the pattern. Make sure you are printing it at actual scale. Anyone who's printing on A4 paper will have to cut some of the excess paper, as we need to assemble the pattern without any gaps. Both US letter and A4 formats have these squares in the middle of the pages to indicate where the patterns need to be assembled. The pattern includes 1 centimeter seam allowance. The fabric that I would recommend to use for this project is fleece-lined jersey, also known as sweatshirt fabric. However, you can also use a more light or heavier weight fabric as long as it is stretchy. For our pattern pieces, we need to cut 1 front piece, 1 back piece, 2 sleeves, 2 bottom bands, 2 cuffs, and 1 neckband. Moving on to the assembling of the jumper, the first thing we want to do is close the shoulder seams to connect the front to the back piece. We can either use our overlocker for this or our sewing machine. I would recommend a stretchy stitch for all of the seams. Now we can already attach the sleeves by opening our joint body pieces and aligning our sleeves right sides together along the notches that are provided on the pattern. By aligning the notches, we make sure that the sleeve is evenly added to the jumper, making sure the final result is nice and symmetrical. I can only recommend pinning all along the entire sleeve, as we've got 2 different curved directions here and we have to ease the fabric together when sewing it. The more pins we have, the easier and more accurate the sewing is going to be. We of course do this on both sides. Now that we have attached the sleeve, we can close the side seams. For this, we simply fold the jumper in half and align the 2 sides, making sure that the sleeve seams align. For this, we start pinning the 2 seams together and pin the rest outwards from there. And we of course do this on both sides of the jumper. Next, we should attach both bottom bands to each other. Once we have done that, we can fold the bottom band wrong sides together, making sure to align the 2 seams. Now we need to divide the band into 4s. The 2 side seams already mark 2 sides, so I lay them on top of each other and add a pin for the outer edges of the band to mark the next 2 sides. Firstly, we align the side seams of the jumper with the side seams of the band and pin them together. We can then pin the center of the band to the center of the jumper, both at the front and at the back. I have marked my jumper center when copying the pattern pieces over, but you could also either measure or eyeball this. Now we can sew the bottom band to the jumper. For this, we need to stretch the bottom band to match the circumference of the jumper. We need to use our 4 pins as guidance for this to make sure we even out the scrunch effect that this will cause. It is important we only stretch the bottom band when sewing this and not accidentally pull on the jumper. This should then leave us with a nice finishing of the bottom of our jumper with the side seams matching up nicely. Moving on to the cuffs, we basically repeat exactly the same steps again, just on a smaller scale. Before we attach the cuffs to the sleeves, we do want to make sure that they fit nicely over our hands and that we like the fit of them around our wrists. With the cuffs, we also only have 1 seam instead of 2, but that should be no problem, as we can also just divide both the sleeve and the cuffs into 2 parts instead. Because the cuffs are so much smaller, this is a little more tricky to sew, so we just take some time to make sure we catch all the fabric and stretch the cuffs enough to fit all around the sleeve. Lastly, we also repeat those steps for the neckband. We first close the sides to turn it into a loop. We fold it in half with the right sides out, divide it into 4 even pieces with some pins, divide the neckline of our jumper into 4s as well, and align all 4 pins. For the neckband, I personally prefer to have the seam at the center back. You could, however, choose to align it with one of the shoulder seams. And we of course stretch out the neckband as we sew it to the jumper. When sewing with an overlocker, we also want to make sure we feed our threads through the seams so they don't unravel. And with that, we have finished the June jumper, and here is the final outcome. I have been wearing this jumper in the set so much and literally find it to be the perfect cozy outfit for me. Both pieces are super easy and quick to sew. The link to the patterns are linked in the description box below. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below, and other than that, thank you so much for watching.